The objective of this lesson is to be able to express possession using the Spanish possessive adjectives. In other words, to be able to indicate what belongs to someone. You can tell by the word adjectives that we're going to have to keep in mind that hold, masculine, feminine, singular, plural situation which you have all come to know and love. First, let's review the possessive adjectives in English. They are my, your, his, her, our, and their. We use words like this to say my brother, your sister, his cat, our class, their friend, and words like that. Take a look at the chart. Here are the possessive adjectives in Spanish. Mi and mis. Okay, mi and mis means my. And I'll tell you in a minute how you know which one to use. Tu and tus means your, and that's the informal your. Su and sus means his, her, and it also means your, but that's the more formal one, like usted. Nuestro, nuestra, nuestros, and nuestras, they all mean our. And then su and sus mean their. And yes, you're right, we did have them on the singular side, but they are also on the plural side. So su can mean his, hers, your, or their. All right, as we begin to work with these, it is important to keep in mind what it is that we're talking about, what it is that we own. So we're going to start here with casa. All right, so this is house, and the word we already said the word for house is casa. So if I want to say my house, since it's only one, I go up here to my possessive adjectives and I pick the singular one, mi casa. All right, my house. And if I want to put that into a sentence, I could say mi casa es bonita. My house is pretty. Now, if I were rich and I had two houses, then we'd have to pluralize casa to be casas. And so if I want to say my houses, I have to go back up here to my possessive adjectives and pick the plural one. And then I would make this mis casas. And if I want to make that a full sentence, I could say mis casas son bonitas. My houses are pretty. Pretty easy. And this is how it works for this whole singular side. If I want to say your house, I'd say tu casa. But if I want to say your houses, I'd say tus casas. And if I want to say his house or her house, I'd use su casa. And his house or her houses, his houses or her houses, we'd say sus casas. All right, that's not too bad. Now when we get over here to the plural side, here's where we have to start watching that gender. So if we want to say our house, and I'll get rid of this stuff here. If we want to say our house, we want to pick the right form. So we have to go here to our chart and say, well, if casa is feminine, then I have to use the feminine possessive adjective. So we're going to replace this with nuestra, nuestra casa, our house. Again, if we have more than one house, we're going to stay in the feminine and just make it plural. Nuestras casas. All right, but what if we have something masculine? So let's go here to libro. If we want to say our book, well, now our book is masculine. It ends in O. Nuestro libro. Nuestro libro es azul. Our book is blue. And if we want to talk about more than one book, we're going to say nuestros libros son azules. Our books are blue. All right, so we have a couple of problems that happen when students try working with this one. First, they confuse the word nuestro with nosotros. And if you remember, nosotros is the subject pronoun. That means we. So we can't say nosotros libro because that means we book. And we can't say that. It doesn't make any sense. So you want to make sure that you are using nuestro instead of nosotros. Okay. Secondly, a lot of students think that, well, if it's a group of girls talking, I must have to use nuestra. But remember, we're not talking about the gender of the people that are talking, right? Whether it's a group of boys or a group of girls, we have to look at what it is that they are possessing. So a group of boys can say our house, nuestra casa, and a group of girls can say nuestro libro, our book. So that's where it gets a little bit tricky. All right, let's take a look at the last one here, and that is su and sus. And again, that just can mean their. So one thing is su casa, right? Their house, or their houses. Sus casas. And this gets a little bit confusing too, because students want to say, well, if it's sus, it must be more than one person. When in fact, no, it isn't. Okay, sus is going to refer to the number of the object that you're possessing. All right, so today here, all we've talked about are casas and libros, but this works for anything that we own. And when I say own, I mean it can be anything like my family, right, his friend, her birthday, all right, things that you're trying to show possession of. All right, so this is tricky stuff, no doubt, but with some practice, you'll be using the possessive adjectives correctly in no time. A few important things to remember. As we work with possessive adjectives, we have to keep in mind what it is that's being owned. Number 2, nuestro, nuestra, nuestros, and nuestras mean our, not we, as in nosotros. An apostrophe S, like in Juan's books, doesn't exist in Spanish. We're using, when we want to say Juan's book, we either have to say the construction of ser plus de that you learned in the previous video, or we're going to use a possessive adjective as in his books. So if you say Juan's books, then go back and look at that other video to refresh your memory on that type of possession. All right, do the questions that go along with this. Take good notes, come to class with questions, and we'll work with it in class. Buena suerte.